problem with my computer. Great. Okay, I'm happy it's recording. I'm having a problem opening up the file I wanted. Here, that's what I was looking for. Okay. Hi, everyone. Um, so this shiur, this shiur was given by me in the past, um, a few years ago, but I think for some people it's always good to repeat, and others have since, Baruch Hashem, made Aliyah and joining, joining coming to Eretz Israel for Pesach is a different experience than what sometimes like what people have been used to in the past. I hope I'm being heard well. Yeah, is everything okay in the sound? Great. Okay. So excellent. Um, so the importance is to get to understand different issues that we have on that could be going on in Pesach in Israel that might be different than in other places, and also just to notice certain things that happen. Some are practical uh, points to realize, and some are things that are halachic, a real halachic discussion. Like so, uh, so I'm sharing a file that will help us um, go through the shiur. And at the end of the shiur, I think I will share this file on the group, on the wider group, so that everyone can use it and enjoy it. I think it might be helpful to get things straight. Sometimes we're used to certain things in I'll have this bigger, so maybe on your screens it'll be easier to read it. So there are things that say in America that you're used to, or not only in America, everyone in their home in the country where you made Aliyah from, where things are different. What exactly is a hechsher? What's a good hechsher? What's not a good hechsher for Pesach? Questions regarding Kitniyot are very different in Israel than they are in other places, because Baruch Hashem, we have the zchut of living at a time of kibbutz galuyot, and we have um, so many people from Am Yisrael that came from all over the world. So the fact that you have a kashrut mehadrin for Pesach doesn't mean that it's not kitniot. It could be mehadrin completely. It could be kitniot, for example. Um, so you walk to the supermarket and you see different ichsherim, and you have to know what to look for and what you're reading. The different kinds of matzot. You go to the shopping mall and you see different kinds of matzot. You see, so I'm just trying. We're going to go through the four different topics. We'll call it. We'll go through shopping, kitniyot, mechirat chametz, and a little bit of koshering details. That I think these four topics are the major four topics that we need in order to prepare for having a kosher Pesach. Of course, there are other issues, but things that these ideas also have a special perspective in Israel. When everyone goes to a different country, especially when you come to Israel with all of the different kinds of societies that we have together mixed and different edot and things like that. So we'll start trying to make some sense in it. Please feel free to ask questions either through the chat. If you see I'm ignoring the chat, so point out that it's there, or just to open up your microphone and ask a question. Feel free to do that while we are going through it. So we'll start about shopping. I'm not talking about the prices. I'm talking about what you're looking for when you're shopping. And so when you go to a store, so of course you're looking for kasher lePesach. And sometimes you'll find out that you have a hechsher that says limot hashana bilvad, meaning this is a hechsher for throughout the regular year and not for Pesach. Now that doesn't mean that it's not kosher to Pesach. It just means that this specific organization that gives the hechsher doesn't give it for Pesach. So you have to look and find out. You have to look at what you're buying, and you might find that it says kasher lePesach on it by a different hechsher. Many times the badatz Aidah Charedit, will only give a hechsher for all year long, but not for Pesach. Sometimes I don't know what's behind it. Could be some maybe money issues, could be special chumrot that they have, but they won't. But then you'll have a hechsher badatz bet Yosef, or kasher be'ashgachat harabanut harashit leIsrael. It'll say that it's kosher lePesach, and if it's a hechsher that you in your family usually follow, so you can feel fine with that. And the fact that the other organization says limot hashana bilvad, says that they're not taking responsibility for Pesach, that doesn't say anything about the product you're buying. So I think that's an important thing to recognize. Another point, which is true throughout the year, all year long, is important to realize that sometimes you have products that have hechsherim from abroad. We just had a story with one of the stores in Buchs because of this. You have hechsherim from abroad, and the policy of Medinat Israel is that things that come from abroad are wonderful, but they have to, in order to say that they're kasher, they have to have the approval. Beishur Rabbanut Harashit. They have to have the approval of the chief rabbinate. What does that mean? That means, first of all, that they make sure that the stamp that's written on the package is not fake, right? Someone can just print out OU and stick it on a box. So the Rabbanut Harashit Israel checks that this is really a product that has been watched over by the OU, for example, or from the Badatz of London, etc. They're going to look at that, and then they say we approve of it. It means that this is a hechsher, and the second thing it does, it means that it's a group that gives kashrut, and the Rabbanut Harashit Israel recognizes it as a legitimate hechsher. But if you at home, if you in the past wouldn't eat this hechsher, the fact that it says Beishur Rabbanut Harashit Israel does not mean that they went over the process of making this meal, making this product. No, all it means is that they approve that this is the real kashrut association, and they defined this product as kosher. This is important. I know I'm recorded, but I'm not in the politics and the halacha discussion in America, but I know that there are many people that don't eat things that are in the kashrut of triangle K. And then you come to Israel and you see triangle K and Beishur Rabbanut Harashit Israel. The fact that it's Beishur Rabbanut Harashit Israel doesn't mean that there was an extra hashgacha more than triangle K. If you follow triangle K, enjoy it, b'te'avon. If you don't follow triangle K, the fact that it says Beishur Rabbanut Harashit Israel doesn't change anything about it. So I think that's something important to know and to realize. So as we said, it says Beishur Rabbanut Harashit. So we said that you have to look for hechsherim that say kasher lePesach, and of course you always have kashruyot that are kasher lePesach, sometimes you have kasher lamehadrin, like throughout the year, and sometimes on Pesach it's good to be machmir um, on certain products because you want to be more machmir on Pesach, so you'll look maybe for mehadrin. Some people that's not what they're looking for. Depends what product also, but that's what you're looking for it to say kasher lePesach, and you shouldn't be worried by the fact that it says limot hashana bilvad. So I'm continuing to shopping for matzah. So halachically, you need a matzah shmura for Leil Seder. There's a question: is there a difference whether it's handmade or machine made? At the bottom line, of course, I think everyone, many poskim say at the bottom line they're both okay. There are those who prefer machine matzahs because they're cleaner. There are those who prefer handmade matzahs because when you make the matzah shmura, you have to have intention that this matzah should be for Leil Seder, and you're watching over it that it doesn't become chametz explicitly for Leil Seder. So maybe a machine can't do that. That's a discussion that involves many poskim. Bottom line, if whatever your minhag is great, but you have to really make sure that you have matzah shmura. Matzah shmura there are different stages in halacha. What defines a matzah shmura? When you go to the store and find a matzah that says matzah shmura, it means that it's a matzah shmura from harvest, and it's for matzat mitzvah. And these are the matzot you need for Leil Seder. There are many other packages of matzot. They're not matzah shmura. Then you find matzot that don't say anything else except on them at all. They're just say matzah kshira lePesach. So that's a kosher matzah lePesach, and that's fine. And then you sometimes find matzah chai regaim. What's matzah chai regaim? It's a machine matzah. Chai regaim means 18 minutes. Now all matzot are 18 minutes. What does it mean, a matzah of 18 minutes? It means that they stop the chain every 18 minutes and clean everything out and start again. So it's like very mehudar in the kashrut, but it's not shamur from harvest. So it's not exactly a matzah shmura, but it is very mehadrin regarding chametz. But a regular matzah, so sometimes the kashrut is based on halachot that are based on cancellation and annulment of the chametz within the mixture before Pesach, during Pesach. There's a whole discussion. So of course, I'm not saying that regular matzah is not kosher, but there is room to be machmir. Of course, on Pesach, we don't want to be mixing chametz. So regular matzot, of course, are kosher, but there is something to look for the other matzot chai regaim, or matzot shmurot throughout Pesach. You can also get them. There are people that are makpid on that, so you should know that you have matzah shmura, you have matzah chai regaim, and you have regular matzot that you should know. When you go to the store, what you're looking for, you shouldn't be caught by surprise. There are 3 different kinds of boxes that you can find. Of course, the easiest ones to find are the regular matzot, and then you'll find matzot shmurot, because everyone wants matzah shmura for Leil Seder, and there are those who want it for throughout the week. And the matzot chai regaim are also around. I think they're usually not as easy to find, because if people are already looking for the chai regaim, many times it's people that prefer the matzah shmura, and there's no point to be like, no one says I want only the chai regaim and they won't have a matzah shmura. There is a price difference, of course, and that could be a reason why to go for the second kind and not for the matzah shmura. But that's an important aspect when we're preparing for Pesach. Halachically, when we go and buy the matzot, so to remember the matzot that we need for Leil Seder, to remember and to realize what are the different matzot that we have out there. And of course, you have hand matzot being sold in different places and matzot shmurot being sold in different places. So open your eyes and ears and ask your friends where's the best place to shop for Pesach price-wise and option-wise. Any questions until now? Okay, wonderful. So we'll continue. Now, when we see a there's one thing that I missed here that I didn't write. I'll add it on now. You come to stores and you'll see many times kasher lePesach, erev Pesach, right? On the milk products. And some people ask me, what does that mean? It means it's only kosher on erev Pesach. What are they trying to say? So they're saying, there's a special issue that they're trying to. It's a chumrah to buy all the milk products on erev Pesach, so that the cows that ate chametz, right? Their milk doesn't come from chametz. The milk was produced before Pesach, and then it seems like the chametz was like canceled, and you can use these products, and it's like a hidur to have the milk products from erev Pesach. But in Israel, all the milk that is kasher lePesach on Pesach comes from cows that didn't eat on Pesach chametz anyway. So then, if you have kasher lePesach on milk products, it doesn't say erev Pesach, so it's fine. But there is this issue kasher lePesach erev Pesach, because then you say if there was anything mixed in the milk products from before Pesach, any chametz, it was already canceled before Pesach, and therefore you can eat it. So when you see that's what it means kasher lePesach erev Pesach, it's not something to worry about. Maybe it's only kasher lePesach and erev Pesach. The opposite, it's a hidur, and it's not less. You come to many stores, many products, says leochlei kitniyot. I'm not involved in the kashrut business. Sometimes there's a good reason why it says kasher lePesach leochlei kitniyot, and sometimes there isn't. Therefore, if you see something that you want to buy, and it says kasher lePesach leochlei kitniyot, don't assume immediately that you can't eat it. And there are different reasons why not. And we're going to talk about that in a moment. So when it says kasher lePesach leochlei kitniyot, so if you see corn or hummus or trina, and it says kasher lePesach leochlei kitniyot, so it's kasher lePesach mehadrin. There's no chametz. It's completely fine for Pesach. But if you don't eat kitniyot, you can't have it. That is complete kitniyot, right? You can have rice. You can have. These are things that there are people in Israel, Baruch Hashem, other not Ashkenazim and not Moroccan that eat rice on Pesach, and that's and therefore it's kasher lePesach lamehadrin, because the only thing is that it has no chametz, and it was checked thoroughly, and it's all fine. But if you're makpi, they're not eating kitniyot. That's most of us, I think, here are. So then you have to make sure not to. I saw there was a question. I think I missed it before. Why can't I see the chat?
Can you hear me?
Here, I see the chat. Wait, here.
Okay. Do you hear me?
Someone asked, what are some of the names of the
second
Matzachai Regaim? That's what I'll write it in here. Chai Regaim, meaning 18 minutes. So sometimes you'll see that. The Matzachai Regaim from different companies. Okay. So I'm going back to the Kitniyot. So when you see a product that's not 100% Kitniyot, you have to ask yourself, why does it take Asher lePesach leochlei Kitniyot? And then you have to ask whether is it because what's inside it, and is what inside it really Kitniyot? Right? There are certain products that there's a machloket about them, whether they are part of this minhag of refraining from eating Kitniyot. I know there are different minhagim in different places. For example, I was surprised to learn last year that in some places, sunflower oil was that's what people used on Pesach, and that was not considered kitniyot. While in other places, it's very clear that sunflower oil is kitniyot. So you have different customs regarding different kinds of different products. So it's important to know what your custom is from home, and if you don't, so you can, of course, discuss it with me, and I can tell you my take on what I would include within Kitniyot. But this is the thing, a lot based on custom, so you can see what you're doing at home, what you're used to, and you have to follow that. So if something, your whole life you were using this kind of oil, and suddenly you come to Israel and it's 100% this specific oil, and it says kasher leochlei kitniyot, you shouldn't lose confidence in your minhag from your house, from your family. It means that there are people who treat this as kitniyot, and you grew up with a custom that this isn't kitniyot, so you don't have to worry about it, and you can use it like you've been using it your whole life. It could be important when you are when you're hosting, so then these questions arise. Because when you grow up in a community where everyone comes from the same background with the same minhagim, so then these questions don't come up. Everyone treats the same thing as kitniyot, so everyone knows what they're eating. But if you're hosting someone and this person eats this and the other person does the other, and you have different things, so there you need a little bit of sensitivity, and there are also leniencies to count on, and that will get Be'ezrat Hashem later on in the shiur. But so first of all, not to lose confidence in what you know from home. Second of all, there are machlokot on different kinds of new legumes, meaning things that were found in later on, like Kitniyot started in Europe, right? In an early century, and then the New World. There was connection to the New World, and we got new kinds of legumes and plants from different places in the world. And some people said what the way we define kitniyot is only according to what existed in Europe at the time when this minhag began. And there are others who say no, it's a general rule regarding certain kinds of plants. And then so for example, soybeans, that's an example for something that didn't exist in Europe. And so some people treat soya as kitniyot and others don't. So if you're lenient on this idea of new legumes and you say these are new legumes cannot be kitniyot, so then even if you see chocolate that says kasher leochlei kitniyot, and the only kitniyot that's inside it says letzitin soya, so then you can eat it because you don't think that soya is kitniyot, so you can enjoy it. If you think that rapeseed in Hebrew is called it's called liftit. I'll write it, liftit. So you find chocolates that say kasher lePesach mechil liftit. Liftit comes from canola. So if you use canola on Pesach, so then if you use canola on Pesach, so you can have that chocolate that says kasher lePesach mechil liftit, because it's the same thing. If it doesn't say within it. If it doesn't, if you don't eat canola, so then you don't eat it. Maybe we'll get there. There's another issue of mixtures, but this is first of all one thing is to take a look at the product and find out what is the kitnit within it, and then you can decide, is this something that I usually am lenient upon or not? Personally, my take will um, the 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 bottom line, without going into the whole shiur on kitniyot, is I am more mekel on canola because it's not something that can be eaten on its own, and more machmir on soya because I think that at the end, like for example, corn is something that didn't exist in Europe, and still everyone's machmir on corn. So I think that there is a general rule on what kitniyot are. It's a kind, there are certain traits to these plants. They have certain plants that behave in a certain way or are used in a certain way, grow in a certain way. So these are kitniyot, and generally speaking, and everything similar to that is kitniyot. And the the word I'm looking for, mafyanim, one of the what's the word? Trait. I don't know if you can use that for food, right? One of the traits of the food is that it's something that is edible on its own, and not only produced from it other foods. Therefore, I am personally following the psakim of Rabbi Yaakov Ariel, who was the Rav Rashi of Ramat Gan, and he says that liftit is not kitniyot, the canola is not kitniyot, but soya is. There are more Mekel opinions that say that all the green beans are not kitniyot, but that's if they're in their pods, so they're not kitniyot, and others say they are. That's another. There are lots of different opinions. That's another shi'u. But this is just talking about like the new plants, right? That aren't in that didn't exist in Europe in the past. So things that are edible on their own. Personally, there are those who think otherwise. Personally, I'm more machmir on that, and therefore, me personally, I don't eat also quinoa. I don't eat on Pesach. My sister does. She follows her posek that says that you can have quinoa on Pesach, but soya, but soya I don't eat, but canola I do eat. So when you see a chocolate bar that says kasher lePesach mechil liftit, I get it, I buy it, I have no problem with that. But you have, of course, different opinions on this, and therefore sometimes it's just easier for them to say kasher lePesach leochlei kitniyot. You should go break your head and read the little letters and try to figure out whether you have any problem with this product or not. Another issue that is important to realize here is the topic of a mixture, meaning a chocolate bar is not a canola bar. It's a chocolate bar. There's a mixture. You have a yogurt, you go to the supermarket and you find a yogurt, a chocolate pudding, or a yogurt that it says kasher lePesach leochlei kitniyot, and you see that within it there's some kind of ingredient that was extracted from kitniyot. Is this a problem or not? And that is a machloket achronim. According to the Mishnah Brura, it is seemingly that you should be machmir on it. You should be strict and not have it. But according to Rav Yitzchak Elchanan Spector, he's lenient on that. So there, and since we're talking about a minhag in the Rabbanan, whoever is lenient on that really has a lot to rely upon, and everyone agrees that a mixture of kitniyot is that was done on Pesach by mistake. Everyone agrees you can eat it, even if it's up to 49% of the dish. If it's by mistake, if you have rice that's spilled in to your food, and you can't separate the rice from one reason or the other, you can eat it. So this is really important because if you're invited to a family that doesn't makpid on kitniyot, or they use an oil that you are usually not makpid on, or I don't know that. So you can say, well, I don't want to eat this because I'm makpid not to eat this. But if they cooked in the morning rice in the pot, of course you can have afterwards the food that was cooked in the same pot. If they used beforehand oil from Kitniyot, that was problematic, and now they use oil that's okay, you can eat it and enjoy it. And according to Rabbi Elchanan, you might even be able to enjoy it on Pesach itself because it's not. I want to be clear. The rule is usually you're not allowed to take something that's prohibited and mix it in to a mixture on purpose. You're not allowed to do that. I'm already here. I'm going down to the second topic, which is the legumes, the mixture. So you know what? I want to stay clear on the shopping. We're still on the shopping, so I'll go into it later. So you just have to remember. So I'm stopping. I wasn't working in order, so I'll stop this, and later we'll have it set up straight. So I was saying, you go to the shopping mall. You're going to the supermarket. It says kasher lePesach leochlei kitniyot. You have to check what the kitniyot are, and then you have an issue of a mixture. If this is a mixture from before Pesach, bottom line, we'll go into this more in depth in a second. Bottom line, according to the Mishnah Berurah, you could be machmir. According to Rabbi Elchanan Spector, you can be mekel. And there are many poskim, especially in Israel, that are more lenient on it. There are those that are machmir, but there are those that are more lenient on it, especially because you go out, you meet friends, you meet family, you meet people from different places, each one with their minhag. And now this idea of being machmir on the mixtures of the kitniyot can sometimes cause a lot of, strain, uneasiness. So if you're machmir on it, that's fine, that's great. But if you're not, there is lots of room for leniency on this. Personally, so I usually, for the things that I buy at home, I am machmir on it. But on things that are served to me and I don't know exactly what it is, so I know I have a lot to rely upon and eat it on Pesach. It's not pure kitniyot that's prohibited. It's a mixture from before Pesach, and that is there's a lot to be lenient on that. Another issue is when you go to a Target in America. I don't know what you have in other countries. You go to a supermarket in not in Israel, and the owner is not a Jew. So Motzei Pesach, you walk in and you buy chametz, and there's no problem with that. But in Israel, you have an issue that you're not allowed to enjoy chametz she'avar alav Pesach. You're not allowed to benefit from. You're not allowed to eat chametz that Pesach that was in a Jewish possession on Pesach. So you have to make sure in every store that you go to check that they have a certificate of mechirat chametz. They should have it, and if they don't have it, so don't buy there. Sometimes they say it's on its way, it's coming tomorrow. Sometimes they're right. We had a story with that with the Super Kaiser, that for one reason or the other it came late, but they sold their chametz, and so we have to check that up and look it up and be in contact with the Rabbanut of Modiin and with the person who sold it or whoever was in charge. You have to make sure that they actually sold the chametz. If you go to work and someone brings after Pesach crackers, so you have a problem, even if they're kosher crackers, because maybe this individual didn't sell their chametz. So it's things that you have to check and having them in mind more so than what I think you had in some of you had in Chutz La'aretz. Depends where you were working and who you met. and where you did your shopping, but in many places that was less of an issue. And here, this is something to you have to make sure. The big chains of the kosher supermarkets, of course, sell their chametz, so that's usually not a problem. But if you go walk into a makoret in a certain place or other stores after Pesach, you have to check that they have a certificate that says that they sold their chametz. So I think we wrapped up the shopping. Okay? Anyone want to add something on that or ask something about it? Wonderful. Okay. So now we'll continue.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
So those that say that you have a mixture of Kitniyot before Pesach, that's okay. It'll still say it, even if it's, let's say, like a drop that has Kitniyot in it, it'll always say on the product that it has
It'll
Kitniyot.
say kasher lepesach leochlei kitniyot.
Okay.
There's a story that about Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, that someone called him up and said, I have a problem. I bought soap and it doesn't say kasher lepesach on it. So he told him, do you have a pen? He says, yes. Okay, write on it, kasher lepesach. So the same thing when you have, if you are sure that you know what you're talking about, you don't have to be worried that it says kasher lepesach leochlei kitniyot if you know what you're following. And so the idea of so now we're going more into that issue of the mixture of kitniyot. As I said, mixtures from before Pesach, Arav Yitzchak Elchanan Spector permits it, even if you do it intentionally. And especially here in Eretz Israel, usually there's a problem. You're not allowed to take something forbidden and mix it in to your pot intentionally in order to cancel it. You're not allowed to do that. But here, you have so many people that eat kitniyot on Pesach, it's not considered canceling a prohibition. So even on Pesach, you could argue that it's permitted. Before Pesach, even easier because they're not an isur, they're not a prohibition, and therefore that's Rabbi Yitzchak Elchanan's take that you can eat. I stopped the sharing here again. He says you can eat. You can eat the kitniyot as soon as you can eat the kitniyot whenever you not the kitniyot. You can eat the mixture on erev Pesach on Pesach if it was mixed before Pesach. So that's his take. Now, anyway, even a mixture on Pesach. So usually, right when we have different prohibitions. So, for example, we all know the rule of batel b'shishim. You need to have 60 times the. You have to have 60. You need to have like 60 times the amount of the what's permitted to eat as opposed to what's prohibited. That's what is throughout the year. In Kitniyot, that's not the rule. In Kitniyot, the rule is a majority. The rule is a majority. Now, if you have a good reason why you need the kitniyot inside, so there are opinions that say that if you intentionally put in the kitniyot because it adds flavor, because it adds thickness, because it adds something to the dish, so then it's a problem. And that's what the Mishnah Berurah, that's why he's machmir. Because he says you put it in intentionally because you need it. You need those kitniyot in the mixture, and therefore you shouldn't eat it on Pesach. But as I said, Rabbi Yitzchak Elchanan Spector is more lenient on that. Now, when you so if you're coming into a house, someone is cooking. You're going into a Sfaradi family, and someone is taking this oil that you don't use on Pesach and is preparing potatoes for you with it. So there is room for leniency here because you go according to the majority, right? The oil is only there to make sure that it doesn't burn, right? In the pot or in the tray or in the pan, right? So you have a pan, you have a pot, you're putting in oil that things don't stick to it and don't burn. And he's giving you potatoes to eat. Potatoes are not kitniyot, but maybe they were using the wrong kind of oil. So it's less than 50%. And though he was preparing it for himself too. It's not I came and took oil that I don't use and poured it into my potatoes. He took oil that he's making himself lunch. And he's inviting me to join him. So I can be lenient on that. Because it's not considered canceling an isur lechatchila. Because all he's doing is preparing himself food and he's giving me food that I can eat. If you feel uncomfortable with that, that's okay. And you don't have to eat. But I'm saying there is room for leniency, mamash, to eat. And if they use a pot that kitniyot was cooked inside, you can eat that. That, I think, there's no reason at all to be machmir in eating something that was cooked in a pot that kitniyot was cooked. If you're in an Ashkenazi home, you shouldn't initially cook in a pot where the kitniyot were cooked on the same day. But if you're not in an Ashkenazi home and someone is giving you food that was cooked in a pot, the kitniyot was cooked there the same day, there's no reason at all to be machmir. Is that questions on that? Okay. As I said, another issue is what are kitniyot, and I think that I went a little bit into length, but not. There's a lot more room to discuss. Another issue about the shopping and going back. Sometimes you have things that don't even have a mixture. Here, what about going out to eat at places that are kitniyot? So of course it depends. So then, usually people don't do that. I think usually. But at the end of the day, if it's kosher or mehadrin, the Pesach, and you're ordering yourself potatoes, so there is room for leniency because you could argue maybe they're preparing the potatoes especially for you, and then you're having this mixture of kitniyot, and maybe you shouldn't be having that lechatchila. But if you're going into a place where the food is already prepared ahead of time for whoever comes in, so then that's more room for leniency. Like if they're preparing the dish especially for me, and then they're canceling the kitniyot within the dish for me, that's more problematic. But if I'm coming to a place where they serve chips, whoever wants can eat the potato chips. They have a whole bunch of chips already made before. And then I bought myself potato chips, even if it's in the oil of kitniyot, I think there's room for leniency because of it. Would I do that? Probably I would make a face. But is there mamash room for leniency? I think you can do that. Really, halachically, there's no problem. Maybe I'll start doing it. I'm just thinking out loud. I don't know how many places there are like that to just sell chips that are kitniyot, but usually there's no real reason to be machmir on potato chips that were made for whoever comes. And it happened that an Ashkenazi came, it's the oil there is mixed, and it's less than 50% of the mixture of the texture. And I hope if it's more than 50%, stay away, right? But if it's so, then you shouldn't, and then you buy, and then you can just eat them because it wasn't canceling the oil intentionally. But just going into a place that sells kitniyot, then you have to make sure that what you're buying and you know what you're getting. Therefore, you have places that are kasher lelo without kitniyot. What other question was there? That's what I answered. Okay. So and we spoke about the pots. I'm not measuring to here. So now the next topic is selling chametz. So I know there are different minhagim of different places, and it also has to do with me. There are people that are used to really selling a lot of chametz. And they are used to coming to the Rav and shaking his hand, and he does a kinyan, and the chametz is sold through the Rav. And there are different places that you can do that in Modiin, and you have places where you can come and sign your name on a shtar, like on a contract, like with the Rav. But I want to just explain what goes on. What is the process? The process is there is no Rav that buys the chametz from you. No one's crazy enough to do that, right? What's important is that what you're doing is you're appointing a certain person to be your representative to sell the chametz to the non-Jew. And I really believe that you can do that online too. You can say, I'm appointing this person, I'm appointing the other person. I can appoint a certain person to be my representative to sell my chametz. Usually what I do before Pesach is I send a link of the tzohar sale of the chametz, and that is sold. And then they say when it starts, when it begins, and when it ends. And they ask, usually, at least in the Hebrew, they have in Hebrew and in English, at least in the Hebrew, they ask for a detailed description of where your chametz is to make sure that you put it in a specific place. It's not, I'm selling. At the end, the contract says, if I missed something, so it's also sold. But at the end, the major issue is I'm selling chametz in a certain place. I'm not selling the chametz that's swallowed in my pots. No one buys that, and it doesn't make any sense to do that. So you sell the chametz through Tzohar. They sell the chametz to a certain non-Jew, but there are so many different ways of doing it, and I really think it's not the sale itself that you're doing online. And then people say, I want to do the sale the best way I can. You are not doing the sale. All you're doing is appointing a certain person to be your representative. And this person or this body are doing the sale in 100 different ways halachically to make sure that it works. And therefore, I really don't see any reason why it has to be done in person, but you can do it online. And usually that's what I do. I send a link to the Tzohar sale, but there are others, like you can see, I wrote here, different groups, Rabbanut, Tzohar, Chabad, Igud Rabbanei Kehilat, and many, many, many more places that will do it, that will help you with that process. Another issue is, what do you sell? Is it the right thing to keep in my freezer pitot and sell them on Pesach? Sell them for Pesach, and then Motzei Pesach, an hour after Pesach, I have my pitot. Is that the right thing to do? I don't personally. I think that's not the right thing to do. You can have enough time before Pesach to calculate what we have and what we don't. I know there are some people that might be worried because of the war. They say, I want to have things in store. I want to have things in storage. I'm keeping them. I know that maybe there's going to be something and I'll need this food. I hear that. And if you rely on the sale, you're not doing anything wrong according to the Oraita, not according to the Rabbanan, and it's fine. You're having a Pesach kasher. That's fine. But lechatchila, there is something to the fact that the sale was meant initially for people that are losing a lot of money. If you own a supermarket, so to burn all of your chametz is very problematic. But if you're in your own home and you can calculate how much chametz you have left, so by the time you come to Pesach, you can make sure you don't have chametz. There are also some organizations that collect chametz on Erev Pesach and then sell it, and then on Motzei Pesach give it as charity. But I really think that people can usually calculate what chametz they have, and you don't need to sell them. Some people have very expensive whiskeys and different kinds of beverages like that are chametz, and they want to sell them. As I said, I can't say anything against it, but personally, I think it's better not to sell complete chametz. The sale, what I use the sale for, are for mixtures that either have a very little amount of chametz, or for things that there's a safek if there's chametz within them, like I don't know, different medications or different or I don't know, different foods that I don't think really have chametz, but I put them in the sale. I open them before Pesach. Maybe I don't even need to, but there might be a mixture. It doesn't have a kasher lePesach. I include them in the sale, but it's lechumra. Our major goal at home is to reach Pesach without any chametz. But that is the way to do the sale, and that's important. Sometimes people have chametz in another time zone, either because you're flying abroad, you're going to be in another country for Pesach, which is something that we don't know whether will be possible this year, but but maybe it will be. We just don't know, right? And then you're going to not be in the same place where your chametz is. And another thing is that some people own chametz in other countries. You have two homes, you have two, and then you have chametz that is in another time zone. What does that mean? It means that when Pesach begins in Israel, Pesach hasn't begun there. And when Pesach ends in Israel, Pesach hasn't ended in Chutz La'aretz. So then what do? How do you treat the chametz? Are you supposed to sell it according to the owner or according to the chametz? So there's a machloket. The majority opinion is according to the owner. And therefore, if possible, and let's say the tzohar sale, they say the sale comes into effect a half an hour before Pesach, where the owner is. And the sale, the end of the sale, when they buy it back, it'll come into effect a half an hour after Pesach ends, where the owner is. And then even if they do the sale according to Israel time, the action, it will not come into effect until it is fitting to the owner. So that's important to know. There are opinions that you should do it, that it'll be both ways. That you sell it on the earlier time and you buy it and you receive it back on the later time. It's not always easy to find places that have those kind of sales. There are maybe in different places. If anyone knows, please let me know. That might be helpful for some people. So I would appreciate it. But if you don't have that, the basic ruling is according to where the owner is and not according to where the chametz is. Any other question until now? Okay. Baruch Hashem, I hope everything's clear. There was something that came up to my mind while I was talking. Let me see if I can remember. Is it selling the chametz? I don't remember. There's something that said, I get asked about that every year, and I forgot to put it in. If I remember, I'll let you know. If not, you'll ask me. Because I asked about it. I don't remember. Okay, so we have the issue of koshering. Some people are used to koshering. There's no difference in koshering in Israel and in Chutz La'aretz. It's the same rules. But some people are used to having bigger kitchens or two kitchens at home or having all the dishes changed. And you don't have that here for one reason or the other, or you weren't planning on being here for Pesach, and then you are, and you have to kosher your kitchen. So the basic laws of koshering. So of course, anything that is from steel and it can be kosher in things that we have, things that are in Hagala and things that are in Libun. We're not going to go through all the rules of Aksharat Kelim at the moment, but usually steel things can be, unless they're used on fire, and then usually koshering them for Pesach will ruin them, and then you should find new trays for the oven or some other solution for that. We'll talk about that when we get to the oven in a moment. But pots, pans, etc. Pots. We'll start with pots. Pots can usually be kosher. Pans, it depends on how you use them. If you usually use them with a little bit of amount of oil and not a lot, and you have chametz straight on them, so then there's a serious reason to think it needs to be kosher belibun. And if you do libun chamur, meaning hot fire on the pan, reaching the high degree, I think it's 350 degrees Celsius, you will maybe have something kosher, but it won't be a pan anymore. So then you need to get a new pan for Pesach. But pots can be koshered, and cups. I don't think I put I didn't put a pot and pan section. I'm just talking like my mind. It wasn't written there. Things that people don't always know is that plastic. There's a machloket whether plastic can be kosher. According to many, it says many judges. It wasn't my translation. According to many poskim, you can kosher plastic if it's smooth. If it has cracks in it, so it's harder. You have to really clean it, and it's better not to kosher. It doesn't cost that much. It's better to at that moment not. So then it's better not to kosher the plastic. But if it's smooth plastic, you can kosher it in hagala. If it's something that needs hagala, again, the basic rule is whatever used on fire straight needs libun with fire. Whatever is used with water, with liquids, needs hagala, meaning in boiling water, and that is so then the plastic can be koshered in hagala. Ovens, there's a big machloket whether you can kosher ovens for Pesach. There are many poskim, the Rabbi Ovadia and other poskim are lenient. There are many poskim that are lenient, say you can kosher the oven. Now we're talking about a regular oven. If you cover the food, so if you cover the food, so then there is no problem. Meaning, what you have to do, you have to clean out the oven well, really, really well, to make sure that there's no chametz inside at all. Spray it, destroy it. Put it on the highest temperature for approximately, let's say, 40, 45 minutes. And then, according to many opinions, you can just use the oven. You have to really kosher it and also make sure between the glass and the thing, that there's no chametz left there. You have to clean it well. If you cover the food on Pesach in the oven after you've koshered it, or you put it on the highest temperature, and it's clean, and you cover the food, even those that are machmir will say that you can use that oven and there's no problem. If you cover it with aluminum foil or anything else, that would be fine. Everyone agrees that that's no problem. The trays. Trays are more problematic than the oven. The difference between the oven and the trays is that the oven doesn't come in direct contact with the food, and the trays do. And therefore, the trays would need a harsher way of koshering them. And as I said with the pans, it destroys them. And so you can't use the trays on Pesach in a regular way. So either you get other trays, like usually you have the trays, and you have what's the word?
Rack?
The rack, thank you. So you have the rack. The rack you can cover with aluminum. Also, some people use the rack with putting food directly on the rack, and some people don't. So you know what you do in your house. If you put food directly on the rack, so then it's like the trays. If you don't put food directly on the rack, so then it's more like the oven, and it can be kosher. And then you put the tray. You buy trays for Pesach, either the no chad pe'ami trays, right? And you put them and you use them, or you find somewhere to find Pesach trays, and you use them in the oven, and that's fine. But the trays themselves, you shouldn't. If you cover them with aluminum foil, and I think it's better to have like 2 layers, so then you can use the trays. So I would clean the oven, put it on the highest temperature, cover the trays and the rack, and then you can use the oven. And if you are worried about the opinions that say you can't really kosher an oven because an oven really needs libun chamu, it needs to reach the 350 degrees Celsius. I don't know what it is in Fahrenheit. And the regular ovens don't reach that. They reach like I think 240 or something like that. So then, and you're worried about those opinions. So and you want to use an oven. So either you get yourself a toaster oven for Pesach, or you can cover your food, cover it all. It takes longer to cook, but it's kosher. If you have I don't in Hebrew you say piroliti. How do you say it in English? How do you pronounce it? Pyrolytic? Yeah. If you have a pyrolytic oven, what?
Pyrex?
No, a pyrolytic oven. An oven, a self-cleaning oven. If you have a self-cleaning oven, so it reaches a very, very high temperature, and when you clean it, especially on the most, I would say, effective program, it's kosher the oven. In all opinions, you can use the oven. I say all opinions. You have a glass door. So there might be some people who say Ashkenazim don't kosher glass on Pesach, but I think that's being very, very machmir because of the it's glass that it's made for a very high temperature, and it doesn't come in direct contact with the chametz. If you have a pyrolytic oven, you can use it on Pesach in all opinions. The trays cannot be in the oven in the self-cleaning program, and also not the racks, and not also holding it. So those things have to be treated like I said before. You have to put them in the oven on the regular highest temperature, not on the self-cleaning, and then whatever needs to be cover, and then you can use it on Pesach. But the pyrolytic program, the self-cleaning, koshers the oven itself, according to almost every opinion. The stovetop. Yes. Someone want to say something? See another question in the chat. Yeah, that was the same one. Okay, so the
Just to clarify, when you say that you put food directly on the tray or the rack, that's like the actual food's on the tray. You're not using like a pan on the tray.
right, if you have a tray that you put always a pan on that tray, so then that tray is like the rack, right? I'm
Okay.
talking about putting food directly on the tray, even if you use baking paper. Baking
Okay.
paper is not considered not putting food directly on the tray because it has amilan. What's the word for amilan? Um,
Starch.
Starch. It has starch on it, and so that's considered like the food is it can go through, and also many times the food on the baking paper is liquidy and humid and goes through. Right, you pick up the baking paper, and it's not like it's not like the tray is clean. So, therefore, even if you use baking paper all the time, that's not considered like a tray that you don't put food on. But if you put it in a tray on top of the tray, so then that's like the rack. Kosher, I mean, stove tops. So I hope that'll be the answer this week in the Q&A of the Drachim. But the koshering stove tops. So if you have a gas stove top, so we usually paskin that it needs libun, but not libun chamur. It's enough to have libun kal. Because think about it, all year long we use it for fleshik and for milchik. So it's enough to have it on high temperature, and you can put the stove tops in the oven while you're koshering the oven, and then that should be enough for the stove tops. Some of the stove tops have these plastic things on them, so then I don't think it's recommendable to put them in the oven when you're koshering them. You can always also go for the covering the stove tops with aluminum foil. Especially what really needs the aluminum foil is where it comes in contact with the pots, and then that would also be enough. Can you comment on using hot trays for keeping the food hot on Shabbat? Does one cover with aluminum foil? So that is a good question. There was a thing a few years ago that I think Machon Somet said it was dangerous to cover a plata with aluminum foil. I think there was a whole controversy about it. People said it's not dangerous at all, and it's fine. I've never seen anything dangerous. I'm not going to take responsibility now, but I think that but personally, that's what we do. We cover it. You can either, you don't have to cover it completely hermetically. It's enough. Wait, I apologize. I need to get the electric cord before the computer turns off. Okay, I can breathe. So it's important to so where are we? It's already getting late. So I don't want to take it for too long. So where was I? Well, about the plata. So you can heat up. You have to clean the plata. You can put it on the highest heat, and then I would just make sure that it doesn't. And then there are those who say you can then use it. You can just. I would just if you're scared of covering it completely with aluminum foil, I would just put aluminum foil on the top to make sure that there's like a difference of at least one layer between the pots and the plata, and that should be enough. So counters, if you know what company or what kind of material your counter is. So some of them, you can go online into the site of Machon Tzomet, and you can find how to kosher your counter. Sometimes you have counters that you don't know where they came from, so I'm just saying the general rule. The general rule is that real marble and stainless steel can be kosher by pouring a hot kettle of water over it. Artificial materials, so there's a machloket of whether you can kosher them or not. You know, has to remember that at the end of the day, most of the time you don't put hot food on the counter. So for many reasons, like you could say, you don't even need to really kosher the counter. People are usually machmir, like we are in Pesach. We're very careful with chametz, and we make sure that the counter is either covered or koshered. But so many people, if you cover your counter, you don't have to worry about anything. If you kosher a counter and you're not sure it's from a material that can be koshered, so if you've koshered it and you make sure not to put directly any pot straight on the counter, but only on top of a trivet, a towel, and you make sure things are clean and nothing spills over, so that would be usually enough. But many people cover it anyway, and that's 1 week of being a little bit crazy, as that's the minhag of Am Yisrael. Already in the Rishonim, we see that the Rosh describes that people scratch the walls to keep it clean from chametz. We're not the first generation to be crazy over chametz, and that's a big thing. It's important for us to make sure that we go through this week the best way we can, fulfilling the chukim of the Torah, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So it's important. So if you are used to cover it, that's great, that's wonderful, to stay on the safe side. But as I said, the basic rule is that if you kosher it and you're careful not to put things straight on the counter, you're okay. I think that's it.
I ask about a sink that's like made of questionable material that you don't know?
Right. So sinks, if they're from a questionable material, so if we're talking about someone who moves into a house, there's something else to talk about. If we're talking about a week, I would get an insert. Any more questions? I know that while I was talking, there was a topic that came up, and I said I forgot to talk about that, and now I forgot about it again. So maybe it'll come up later. Bezrat Hashem, I think beginning Motzei Shabbat or Sunday, we're going to have a WhatsApp group of the whole community of questions for Pesach. So you should feel free to share your questions there, also personally, but also in private, but also through the group, then everyone can enjoy them. Bezrat Hashem, we should all have a Pesach kasher v'sameach. I think it's a great zchut to have Pesach in Eretz Yisrael, something that generations have dreamed about. And many of the things that we have to do with the blessings that we've had of kibbutz galuyot and all the different minhagim that come together in one country. So Baruch Hashem, that these are the challenges that we face. We're facing other challenges too. But we're facing regarding Pesach, these challenges, and I think that's a blessing of the kibbutz galuyot that we're part of. And Baruch Hashem, we are a dream come true of generations, from all the past generations. זהו.
Thank you.
בשמחה רבה.
Thank you.
תודה רבה.
Okay.